You're listening to the Gate of Trust podcast. Join hosts Matt Trush and Felix Friedberg's heart-to-heart conversations with artists, entrepreneurs, scholars and laymen who, by strengthening their trust in God despite all odds, experience outright miracles. Profound yet practical, inspiring and heart-wrenching, moving true stories of triumph against adversity. Trusting in God can literally save lives. And now, Gate of Trust podcast hosts, Matt and Felix.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Felix.
And this is the Gate of Trust podcast.
Hey, Matt, I have a good one this week.
Let's hear it, Felix.
All right, here goes. 2 men of Chelm went out for a walk when suddenly it began to rain. Quick, said one, open your umbrella. It won't help, said his friend. My umbrella is full of holes. Well, then why did you bring it? I didn't think it would rain.
Felix, jokes aside, there are so many things in life that we're not prepared for.
We may think we have an umbrella that's going to protect us, but unknowingly it may be full of holes. And what happens when it's not just one storm, but a storm followed by a typhoon?
Today's guest on the Gate of Trust podcast is Kesem Mia Hetsrony, an educator and writer who recently experienced a tragic loss when her 7-week-old baby girl just didn't wake up.
How did she find the strength to cope?
How did Bitachon and Simcha help her transform the darkness into light?
How did she find a way for pain and joy to coexist?
Join us for this inspiring, heart-wrenching, moving, true story of her triumph amidst adversity.
Here is the valiant Kesem Mia Hetsrony. Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you.
Same here. I'm so happy, Baruch Hashem, that we got this off the ground and we finally can meet. Baruch Hashem, we moved into a new house on Wednesday. It's very, very busy.
Yes, Kesem Mia, thank you so much for joining in your life. I know it's busy, and Baruch Hashem, you just told us you're in a new home, so you should have only simchas in your new home. And so thank you so much for taking time at this busy time to meet with us. I think I shared with you a little bit. Our podcast is on the Gate of Trust, and really we talk to people who have stories that are their personal stories, but those stories are so important when shared, and really have been able to give a lot of people a lot of strength and chizuk in the world, in the community, when those stories are shared. So thank you so much for joining us and being open to sharing your personal story with us.
Okay, well, I'm really happy to be here. And I remember hearing a number of years Rabbi Gluchovsky from Rehovot. He shared like a really amazing hashgacha practice story that happened to him. He said how someone said to him, Rabbi Gluchovsky, how is it that you always have these stories to tell? Like, these stuff don't happen to other people. And I said, because I believe his answer was something like, I look out for them and then I share them. So I think that if we're sensitive to find the miracles in our lives and we pursue Nisa, we share them. And sometimes that miracle is just the ability of finding the strength of human capacity. That in and of itself is revealing a miracle. Then we have a responsibility to talk, to share, and empower one another.
That's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that.
So what are you doing in Philadelphia?
I teach. At this point, it's mainly Hashem and programming in school. I run a Sheikh Chabad and I write.
Wow, that's amazing. Is it specifically for the town of Philadelphia? Is there like a community? What is the name of your community?
We live in Overbrook Park, which is a community that's going through a big revival right now. We are, I want to say, 60, 70 Lubavitch families here. We have an amazing cheder. I call it the best kept secret in Lubavitch.
Too late. now everybody knows.
Yeah, it is such a wholesome, it's like on the one hand very wholesome, on the other hand very professionally run. They really work hard to straddle the heimishkeit of a frum school with warmth and like love and understanding for every child, with the importance of high-end learning and the expectations you expect of a school in, today's day and age. So in addition to like being a really, really Chassidish standards, they have all the resources, resource room teachers and a Kriya specialist that tests everybody, and they do assessments on like how the children are learning and growing. And we've got guidance counselors and we've got therapists, and I feel like whatever they can, they try to incorporate to set up their students for success. So working there is an amazing experience, and sending my kids there is an amazing experience. So together,
Wow. Sounds like a great community, great school. Sounds like
it's
Houston,
also
but hate to say almost better. No, is it? I don't want you to
so.
compare, but it sounds like it's a
I
nice
would say
place.
what is in common is that both places are filled with phenomenally wonderful people.
Very
I
nice.
am so blessed. It was something I was really scared. Leaving Houston was awful. It was so hard. I didn't realize I was going through a grieving process when we left till Shayna Alashon passed away, and I learned about grief, and that was when I said, "Oh, I've been in this for a while now."
Wow.
But it was so hard to leave. So to be able to come here and be with so many good, compassionate people was such a gift from Hashem. Like I feel like I went from one hug to the next.
That's beautiful. That's really
Yeah, and
beautiful.
also like the people who run our school here, like they make us feel that we don't work for them, we work with them. Like I really feel like a team player. It's a very safe work environment and also school environment. Like you don't hear staff talk about each other or about kids behind their backs. Like everything is very good dice. How can we help? If something bothers you, like there's healthy ways of communication. Like it's just nice to see. I've worked in many schools in many places, and I'm a big fan of where I am. Not to say that other places weren't also great. It's just like the overall, we're so grateful that, leaving Houston and so much that was so hard. We're so glad we were able to land in a place that has so much goodness. Baruch Hashem.
Beautiful. The gate of trust, as you know, is about bitachon and trust. And I think you were describing at least the first stage of trust was leaving Houston. And it felt very hard. It felt very difficult, so much so that you said you were grieving. So tell us a little bit more about that, what that was about. And hopefully, now that you're in this really wonderful situation, how you can see the fact that it was God's hand bringing you to an even better place. How did you deal with the initial grieving of leaving one place and going to the next? Tell us about that. It sounds like it was a difficult story. I didn't even realize.
So I'm gifted, Baruch Hashem, to have a lot of positivity, a generally like happy person. If people see me with a sad face, they're like, "What's wrong?" Because it's unusual. I'm like, so Baruch Hashem, working on Simcha for the most part wasn't always an avodah, but things change. And so we were in Houston, and I love the community so much. Just everyone there is my friend, and it was having to leave there. I was like, yeah, Mona Bitachon, it's gonna be amazing. Hashem's gonna help us. Everything's gonna be fine, and it wasn't because we didn't know where we're moving to next. We didn't find that perfect space. We didn't, and that made is where things got really hard because I was trying to keep the faith, and like keep that up, and there was no direction. So we were kind of floating for a while. We left for the summer. We didn't know if we're coming back, but we didn't think we were, but we weren't sure. And we really didn't know where we were going. We had
How
to
many
make
kids
some,
do you have at this point? And you just pick up your whole family, start driving where?
yeah. So we drove to my parents. Thank God, like Baruch Hashem, I am so blessed with the most incredible support system. I have the most amazing parents. I have siblings, and I have a lot of friends and family who care. We went into the East Coast. We stayed by my parents for a bit. We took a job up in the country for a bit so that we wouldn't be all seven of us in my parents' house in their small, Brooklyn apartment for too long. We tried different things, but it got to the point where I was really, really sad because the school year was starting and we still didn't have a direction. And I remember I was so beside myself because I said, you know what, but if we don't know where we are, it's one thing, but like my kids have to start school. It's not fair to them, like, and that's what was really hard. And asked my husband to take me to the IHEL, and like I was crying to the rabbi, give us a direction, like help. And on the way back, I was still so sad, and I was like telling my husband the whole issue about school, and my husband said to me, did you ever consider that maybe it's a shkacha pratis that Hashem wants them to start school late? And that was a huge paradigm shift because you know this. You know everything's hashgacha pratis. You know that whatever's going to happen is what the Ibshter wants. But where I find the challenges is knowing where you let go and let God. Yeah, Hashem, I'll do whatever you want, but you want me to not do? That's where I have a hard time. But that really, really helped. So in the end, Baruch Hashem, we, through different ways, we determined we're just going to try out Philadelphia. My husband went into a different career path. We said, we'll try it for a year. And we were so happy. We found a place. It was not a house that I liked at all, but like we needed a place to live. Baruch Hashem, we made it. They needed a base commander for Tzitz Hashem. So that was great. Walked right into my comfort zone, programming, Tzitz Hashem, all that. And that was it, part of the community. And I was in my 8th month. So all this was happening with me knowing that we're having a baby. And the parshias of all this happening is right. We moved in right after. We actually had quite an adventure. We were supposed to move in right after Sukkot. We ended up getting COVID. But it's one thing if you have COVID and you can stay home. It's a whole other story if you have COVID and you don't have a home yet. So we didn't yet have our house in Philadelphia. I couldn't make my parents sick in Brooklyn. Baruch Hashem, we were able to figure it out, but we ended up getting very scarily ill, and Baruch Hashem again had tremendous bracha, so I won't go into that. It was a big story, but we ended up only coming in about halfway through Cheshvan to start school, and we were like, finally, okay, everything's going to be good. We're going to have Menachas Nefesh and like get our life together. That's it, new start. I was working a couple weeks in school, and then Baruch Hashem, we had our baby, and this was around the time of the parsha of the Yetze. It's a week of Yaakov Avinu finally settling in Eretz Yisrael. Vayishev. Thank you. That was it. The whole point of Vayishev. I was so excited to finally have my Vayishev. I'm sitting, I'm settling, everything's going to be good. It was very hard because my husband's new, anything, you're chalas kashais. I was like, okay, it's all the beginning. We have a house, we bought furniture, we started settling in, new baby, but things were, I was ready for my vacation, just stay home, take care of my baby, take care of my kids. And then at 7 weeks old, our Shana did not wake up on a Friday night. We were all sitting together Friday night after the meal. We were all on the couch. Shana was right next to me, and everybody dozed off. And at some point in the middle of the night, I went to check on my baby. I woke up, I went to check on her, and she was not responsive. So on the one hand, that was extremely traumatic for everyone to be there. On the other hand, my family really feels that Sheena was surrounded with love. Friday night, all her family, we were all there. But that was just horrible. And I am very blessed in many, many ways. And it's amazing that you're able to go through such horrific loss and pain, and yet still be able to recognize the brachos. So we right away, we called 911, of course. We went to the hospital. And when I later in the evening came home, or the next day, I don't know, it was the next day when I came home, to walk into the house and see all my other kids was such a nechama, because I said to my husband, how can you mourn in a house of life? And that's kind of in the direction to take, that we're looking at life. So I really look at the galus, I look at the pain, I look at all the loss. You can straddle all that together with joy and simcha and life and bracha, and you don't have to choose one over the other. That's amazing. What I say, the nace of human capacity, is that you could look galus straight in the eye and still live Goladik. It's huge. And also, it helps make sense of Galus when you realize it's senseless. It's horrible things are happening. They really are. And, a lot of people, when they sit Shiva, they hate hearing a lot of comments that people say. And I was like, you know what? people are saying sometimes some really ridiculous things because they don't know what to say because it's a ridiculous situation. It's not normal. Babies aren't supposed to die. People aren't supposed to die. Mashiach's supposed to come, and everything's supposed to be good, and it doesn't make sense. We're still in Galus. The whole thing is sense like is beyond our comprehension at this point. Is beyond anything it should be. That it's okay if people say the wrong thing because the situation is wrong. And having those types of perspectives really, really help because you're able to read the love that people are trying to convey. It's not always the words, but it's the emotion behind it. So a couple of things that I'm really grateful. The Ibster really he set us up to be able to handle things. So most women, Baruch Hashem, are very busy in their family life, their work role, etc., that we don't have the opportunity to learn in depth like like we did when we were younger, like men do, with the chiyuv with limud. I was so blessed. For over 5 years, I worked for Living Torah, writing children narrations on their discs. So I would get a sikha transcribed or a piece of a sikha. I would have to I'd learn it, I'd delve into it, I'd fabricate on it, and then I had to create a storyline that would be appropriate to children with a tangible way of how to apply the Rebbe's word.
In the Hachayil?
Exactly. And this was for Gem, for Living Torah. They no longer have narration on the videos the past couple of years, but we did this for a while.
But what was the Parsha sphere also?
Right. So then I moved over working for Tim Hashem on the Parsha Fire, which was also huge, which again, I would receive a secha based from the Rebbe Retzu Kinder that had gone over through a rabbinic advisory board that went back to the original secha, filled me in the details, whatever. And then again, the same idea of, okay, these are the words the Rebbe spoke to children. Now bring it to today's youth in a applicable, creative way. And again, every week when you're doing this as a woman who's raising children, who's your mind is busy in the holiday and busy in the running a household and also the work we do and all that, but to have the Rebbe's words as the backbone in what you're doing, you don't think the same, you don't live the same. Your perspective on everything is completely different. So I felt like that was such a gift from Hashem over all those years, because from the moment Shana was nifter, I had an arsenal of the Rebbe's words to fall back on. I had meaning and I had perspective, and that doesn't mean things weren't hard. And just because it's in the mind, it takes sometimes so much work to get to the heart. And I'm going to tell you about that in a bit, but like those first few hours, those first few days, the shiva, I felt like I was an overflowing fountain of the Rebbe's words, and I was able to hear the chizuk that others were giving me because I had the capacity to do so. And that's why I really feel like learning Shar Bitachon, for example, is so important, because even if you're not totally integrating what you're learning yet, just hearing the words, you are planting seeds that at the right time they will sprout and they will help you and they will guide you. And that was another thing I did the year before Shana was nifter. I took a Mechanechas training course through the Menachem Education Foundation. And that was a lot about how to help students in different things, especially when they were going through hardship and trauma. So after Shana was nifter, I spoke to, like shortly thereafter, High Life reached out because they help with, sudden trauma and things. And they told me, the best person to speak to the kids in the beginning are their parents. So they asked me, what did you say? And I shared with them different conversations and things. And they said, how did you know to say that? Where did you get that lesson? I said, well, I'm teaching for years. And they were, wait a second, I spent a year training on this. At the time, I thought I did it to help my own students. I never thought it would be to help my own children and myself. And that was a really big deal. So I really feel that like Hashem should never test anyone, and no one should ever know the feeling of loss. And yet, when something negative happens, the kaichas are there. the reach out for them, look for them, seek them. There are answers. My kids had different questions when the Mashiach comes. Will Shayna be a baby or will she be grown up? So I said, that's a great question. We called around and we asked. And when, different things like Tyra has the answers. This was a huge moment for me in the hospital when Shayna was pronounced that she was nifter. She was nifter. I didn't know what to do. There was a policeman in the ER because we had called, 911, so they escorted us, everything, and to the hospital. And I was like beside myself, and I asked the police officer, like, what do I do? What am I supposed to do right now? And the police officer just looked at me. He's like, ma'am, I have no idea. I don't know. And I'm like, wait a second, what am I asking a police officer? I know exactly what to do. I mean, geez, I told him, I know what I need. I need a rabbi. Get me a rabbi. And I was so grateful a couple of weeks after her Yahrzeit, Parshas Mishpatim, which just passed. And I realized what a gift Torah is. We know what we need to do. And every time in our life, the Ibshter gives us how to be busy. We don't learn Hilchos Avelos, so we have to keep them. It's such a special, I don't want to say gift or opportunity because it's so horrible, but the fact that we have something to hold on to when everything is falling apart, that during, your worst moments of your life, you have a halacha to learn and to keep and to follow. Like the whole shiva, my husband sat with a sefer, that of the Hilchos Avelos, things he never knew or learned, and it's different for a child, or maybe he learned it with his father, but it was when his father was different. But it was just like it was where to put your kaiches that you could do something, and that's huge. That the Eibishter gives us Torah, he gives us mishpatim. He tells us, I always thought laws were so dry. Like halacha, I find interesting intellectually, but it's not one of those warm fuzzy subjects. Like give me chassidus, give me something on a shkafa, tell me a good story. And yet, when Shayna was nifter, I felt the love and embrace of halacha. I felt that that halacha, it could be so warm and such a safe zone, and like such an amazing place to put ourselves into. So that being able to have those moments of realization really, really helped. And we were new to Philadelphia. People found out we were sitting Shiva, and my house became a revolving door. I mean, the entire Philadelphia was walking through my house. People from all different communities, people from the community we moved into, but then tons of people from nearby Balakidwood, which is a large Litvisher community. And we were zeicha to have the rabbi of the Isha Tyra and his wife come, and like a lot of Baruch Shem, all the different shlochim came, but like a big representation of Yidden from all over. And I asked them, why did you come? They said, we heard a Yid is in need, so we came. We heard a Yid is in pain, so we wanted to give you support. And that's when I realized just how wide and gorgeous is the support network of Klal Yisrael. They're all there. And like, again, if you're looking for the good, if you have the desire to find the brachas, they're there, and that keeps the bitachon going. Because despite the big pain and loss and the heartache that will never ever go away till the Mashiach comes, you're able to breathe and to say there's a future, there's a tomorrow, because there's still a today. I find that the capacity to be open to all of that is what Libud will get you to. And that's why it's so important to learn. So that was our experience. She was nifter. We took on a campaign. It was also like a long story how it happened, but basically we took on Shabbos Lich. Not such a long story. Basically, my mashpia is Mrs. Esther Sternberg, and she's known as the Neshek lady. She spearheads the Sheikh Chabad Ner Shabbos Kodesh movement directly under the Rebbe. And when Shayna was nifter, she told me like that should be the direction I will go in. And I'm normally really good about listening to my mashpia, but at this I just kind of felt like just because it's your project doesn't mean it has to be mine. And I was like, nah, I don't know, whatever. So I decided, I'm just going to do a general mitzvah campaign based on the 10 mitzvahs. So someone of the Rebbitzin from Aish here, she offered to make me a flyer the schus of that to promote a mitzvah. They designed a beautiful flyer for me. She offered to do a whole thing. I said, that's so nice of you. Let's do a general Mivtzaim campaign. And I showed it to a Litvish lady who came to visit me here. And she said, this was all during Shiva. And she said to me, you're giving people too many options. How about you pick one mitzvah, like Shabbos candles? And I was, Lord, I said, from all the things, Shabbos candles, it was the Imsh telling me, listen to your Mashpia. This is the direction to go. So, Baruch Hashem, we created the Light Behider campaign. It's just a beautiful flyer that Mrs. Koval, the Rabbi of Ish, had someone design for me. I was specific. It should have 3 candles, according to the Rebbe Shitta. It's a girl lighting and her mother. And the idea is to increase in light. If you're not lighting, you should light. If you are lighting, light on time. If it's tzedakah before, whatever you can do to light the hither, just illuminate the world. And it is such a nechama, because in such a dark place, there's nothing like adding light and tangible light. And to know, people message me, I gave someone candles this week, or my friend promised she's going to light, or whatever it is, to know that there's more light in the world, physically and spiritually, because of my child, that's incredible. So again, we could just say, okay, whatever, it is what it is, or we could look for these moments and share them, because they're incredible. So this was all in the beginning. And, you think, okay, we went through the worst of it, and now it's going to be over. Things are going to get better now. And, I really tried to be busy with good and yadim, and things don't happen that way. Galus is not cool. It's not fun, and it's not easy. And instead of things getting easier, life got really hard. With things, sometimes things are so challenging that it's only from Hashem, because Derech HaTeva, it shouldn't work that way. When things get so hard that you feel you're up against a brick wall, you're like, Hashem, it's only coming from you, because there's no way Derech HaTeva can be so challenging. So we went through a couple months where things were just really hard. That shouldn't have been Derech HaTeva. We went through a very bad financial slump at one point, that was really bad. And then different things in my house kept breaking, and warranties that should have covered weren't, and my oven broke, and they wouldn't fix it, even though I bought it from a good company. I was so upset. And somebody said to me, wow, Kesem, Hashem just doesn't stop with you. And I know she meant it from such a good place, to commiserate with me. But that was when I fell into a really bad spot. I started saying, Hashem, this too. And thus began a victimhood. That every negative thing that happened, I started saying, also this. You took away my kid, and then you broke this, and then I can't afford this, and then I can't. And it was just, I was in a really bad spot with this type of mindset. And it was a really, it's so unhealthy. It's so not good. And you could have all the answers in your head. I learn, I teach, I could tell you, I could preach to you. I was reading letters of the Rebbe of Emunah and Bitachon, and how even if a person doesn't deserve good, Hashem will give them good if they're Simcha. And you could know it all in your mind, but Mayach Shalita Lalev doesn't happen in an hour. It's an avodah. And sometimes you really just need the aha moment. And it took quite a few months for me to reach that. I was speaking to another mother who lost a child this past year, and she shared, we were talking about trying to be besimcha and growing. You don't have to only grow from pain. You can grow from joy. You can grow from positive experiences. You can grow from a good conversation with a friend. You can grow from a great podcast like this one. You can grow from a simcha. You don't have to, people always say oh, she's such a better person, or this will make you a better person because this negative event. And although yeah, it might be true, Hashem can make the same thing happen in the positive, okay? He's
Amen.
everything. He can do it all. So, we were talking about just trying to grow from the positive. Don't give any negative to grow from. So with this mindset, she went and she decided she's going to take her child out for the day and be positive. And her child ended up falling down on his scooter, and she spent the day in the ER. And like when she went with, yeah, she went just like for such positivity. And in the end, it was so negative. And, this was a couple months after her child was nifter. And here she is trying so hard and like to be positive and be there for her kids. And she spent time in the ER. And I was so sad by her story. And then I realized, oh my goodness, wait a second here. I had 6 months after Sheena was nifter, my little boy on a Shabbos just was walking in my house and slipped, and he ended up needing the ER. So we ended up going to the same hospital on Shabbos. It was the same doctor on call, and I'm sitting in the hospital. What could have been such a PTSD moment, it's like, wow, it's going to be therapeutic because last time I left, and my little one was nifter. This time I left with a bouncy, healthy baby boy because that's really what the ER is for. It's to help fix things, and then you're better. And I said to my friend, I said, taking a kid to the ER is actually a healthy, normal sign of gullus. It's gullus, yeah, but it's a sign of life in gullus. And that's when I was able to look at all my challenges that I had been through in the past year that I kept saying with this student. I said, whoa, 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 thank God. These are all signs of life in gullus. Yeah, gullus is annoying. Our ovens break and our finances might take a downturn and things might be obnoxious, but those are signs of life. We're living, we're kicking, we're breathing. And that transformed everything. All that I was learning and all that I read and all that I was working like I wanted to be, I suddenly was able to bring down from the mind into the heart. And it just needed me to be able to step out of myself and see someone else's experience and then be able to step back into my experience and take it. That like now, Baruch Hashem, we just moved. I bought 2 new ovens and a beautiful new kitchen that I designed. And like everything is b'nahasochu, right in time for other. That like the brachas right now are so overwhelmingly beautiful. And the revealed good is so beautiful that like I'm so grateful. We went through like in addition to Sheena's passing, the months of Agmas Nefesh that passed, and it was the big things. Losing a child is so incomprehensible that you can't make sense of it, but don't even try. You know, but it was the little things that were making me so crazy because those I was trying to comprehend. And when I was ready to just let go and say, this is a sign of Gullus, but thank God we're alive. Thank God that it's a sign of life, the joy. Let's be happy. Let's be happy in the connections we have and the reality we have. And this is a big nakuda trauma in general, is that when a person to overcome trauma and adversity, neuroscience is actually showing us the greatest tool is connectivity with others. People who have been through tremendous adversity, they are finding, or people who are more apt to fall into depression, don't do so when they have great connections with others. So I realize that the support network, when you reach out to someone and you just say, "Hey, I'm thinking of that about you. I hope everything's okay," or "Let's get together. Let's meet up." We don't realize how much life we're giving to that person. And when we're in a slump ourselves, like I'm really blessed to be able to work with people and enjoy being with people. I'm totally an extrovert, 100%. That's given me so much help. And again, it's everything we're learning. Keep learning, even if you're not feeling it. Keep delving into it. Hafachba, hafachba, dekulaba. Everything's in the Torah. And sometimes you might not find the answer right away, or maybe you find the answer, but you can't apply it. But the right aha moment will come and everything changes. It's astounding that you could just see the good of the Eibishter, even when you see the really horrible things, the Gullus. Sometimes you just have to look Gullus in the eye and say, "You're horrible. I hate you. And I'm going to do everything I can to get rid of you." And that's okay too, because we can talk about the pain and we need to. We need to acknowledge the pain. We need to acknowledge the suffering. We need to say, this is not good. And now, how am I going to make it better? And that I think is the ability to just do good and be good and share good. And it's not just taking the high road. It's not being a better person by doing that. It's being a happier person. It's being a thriving person. It's being a person who's able to really live life to its fullest. And that is a gift from Hashem, that we're able to give, to share, to connect, and to grow. The best way to get there is to learn and to share what you learn. Ha'emanti ki adaber. I believe because I've spoken. It's taken from Tehillim. It's in, I believe from Tehillim. It's in, we say it in Hallel. The more you speak about something, the more excited you are. I'm sure as podcast host, you speak about Shar Bitachon, you're on fire about it. And every time you speak, you're more on fire about it. If there's a topic you really want to work on, you want to work on Emunah and Bitachon, go give a class on it. Suddenly it becomes yours. You own it. You love it. You live it. And I think that is something we can all do, is own our Yiddishkeit, own our beliefs, own our emunah, take it by the horns and ride it. Take it and learn it, teach it, preach it, live it, and love it.
Kesem Mia, amazing. You said something earlier about both feeling the pain and also feeling happy. So I think a lot of the time it's difficult for people. People feel more binary. They're either happy or they're sad. But you really talk about being able to understand that while you're sad, you can find a way to be happy. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So being a naturally positive person, you kind of feel like people also expect you to be sad all the time because you had something sad happen to you. And my natural disposition is not to be depressed, thank God. But then I thought, what's wrong with me? Like, I lost my child. Shouldn't I be just crying all day, every day? Until someone told me, you have to accept your feelings. So you can be really sad and really happy at the same time, but you can't properly grieve if you're subduing your emotions. So if you're feeling sad, feel sad, own it. And if you're feeling happy, own it. And if you're feeling both at the same time, it's okay. You cannot process your grief or any emotion if you don't tap into those emotions. We were very, very blessed to see this and how the Eibishter set up what happened on Dalit Shvat is the day my husband and I met for the first time. So we treat it like a mini anniversary because it's the day we first met. And so every year we commemorate it. Shada was nifter Vav Shvat 2 days later. During Shiva, a week after she was nifter, was the birthday of one of our daughters. So every year, it's a week later. A week after that is the birthday of another daughter. And then the day of the Shloshim was the day of our 3-year-old's Upshirnish. We had to move the party, but we went to the Eihel to commemorate the day. I just felt like it was Hashem telling me, I created a loss, but I padded it with so much love and so much life that this year on Shada's birthday, we went out to celebrate. We went out with the kids and we chose table number 18 because 18 is life and Shada had a life and Shada continues to live in a very different sphere. And it's okay to feel hurt and loss and all the horrible emotions that come with grief, and to also feel the love and joy for the brachas in your life. Give yourself permission to feel. That is the bracha of human capacity, that we are emotional and can feel it. And when we can use our mind to control our heart, which is the natural state of humans when we're in control, then we can do incredible things by acknowledging that pain and that joy at the same time. That, I think, is what kicks us into action, where we say, hey, Gullus is horrible, therefore I would do awesome stuff to make it go away.
So Kesem Mia, unfortunately, like you say, we're in Gullus, and unfortunately other people have suffer losses like your loss. So if someone finds themselves in that situation and they find themselves like you found yourself in a very dark spot where it just seems too heavy, what is one thing you would suggest they do, like the one action they could take to help get out of that dark place? the first step towards getting out of that dark place, what would your suggestion be?
Talk to somebody. Just talk to somebody. Doesn't matter who. As long as it's someone who cares and you could just express yourself. Some people might prefer to listen. Other people might prefer to talk. Right when Sheena was nifter of Motzei Shabbos, somebody came to my house, a relative, and she just sat on the couch next to me and she held my hand for like 2 hours. She didn't say anything, but she said everything. Sometimes that's also connectivity. Hashem says it's not good for man to be alone. Find someone to connect to on whatever plane works for you. That, I think, is the first step. The Rebbe teaches that Yisrael, Torah, Rekucha, Bricha is all one, right? You can't have one without the other. If you have solid relationships and they help you embrace Torah and therefore help you embrace the Eibishter. For me, that is where I found my nechama. For me, I know a lot of people, Shiva is horrible for them. They just want people out of their house. They can't handle it. For me to just have been surrounded with so much love and friends and new people who just wanted to give their love, I soaked it up. Not everyone's like me, that I hear, but find that one person who can help you anchor yourself, whether they give you chizuk, whether you can speak to them, or whether you can just hold their hand. That is a first step. Find someone.
Very good advice to try and stay alone. Obviously, we have Hashem, but Hashem has put people around us, and by reaching out and embracing the people around us and not even pushing them away, but pulling them towards us, that's good advice and helpful advice.
It also brings you to conversations and those aha moments that you wouldn't have thought of. Because the moment you're sharing something, suddenly something else clicks. When you have a conversation, or I tell you, me and my friends, we can be talking and we jump from conversation to conversation. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even get to the point of the previous topic we were talking about because we made it to the new thing. Because each thing you talk about reminds you of something else and we're jumping around. And that's actually a really good thing because when you connect to people, your mind is expanding and giving you the ability to uncover all the gems you have hidden. Someone once told me the answers are all within you. You just need someone to help you dig them out. And I feel that I don't know if we have all the answers, but sometimes we have a lot of them. We just need someone to help discover and someone to lead on and to help us.
Kesem Mia, I hear, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, the grief and now the simcha. And it sounds to me that the true evidence that you have bitachon, that you're connected to above, and that the floodgates of brachas are coming, as we said, without the bitachon, the Rebbe says it's like the faucet is closed. So what do we need to do to open the faucet? It's simcha.
And it's really hard. I want to acknowledge that simcha came easy to me when I didn't have what to be sad about. It doesn't come easy. And there's people who it naturally doesn't come easy no matter what's happening. We cannot just say be besimcha. We cannot just say have emunah. It's an avodah. And that to me has been eye-opening. You got to work at it. Our society as a whole, we focus on negativity. There's a parenting technique, educational technique, nurtured heart approach. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a very, very, very interesting, really in line with a lot of Torah ideals. But one of the things it says is, where do we put more of our energy when a child does something negative? That's when we blow up about something. When we see good behavior, we don't say much. We're like, oh, good job. When they do the wrong thing, wow, we explode. If they did something, what we don't realize is that we're giving so much of our energy to negativity. What a child wants more than anything is your connection and energy. So if your energy is going into negativity, for the highly intense child, they're going to do whatever they can to keep getting that feed from you. So the nurtured heart approach, as I've been reading about it throughout the year, actually helped me bring a lot of simcha into my life, because now when my kid does something good, I start singing. And I made up a funny song. We call it the woohoo song. And I do a funny dance. And my 4-year-old is cracking up. And it makes the house so much happier when you make a conscious choice to put your energy into positivity. But it's hard work. We are not set up to read articles about the feel-good, warm, happy stories. We like the drama. We like We like the scandals. We like like when a tragedy happens, we're reading every article about it to find out what happened and who and how and what. Whereas, when it's good news, we're like, oh wow, good for them. It's so nice. And then we move on. Like, what? No, no, no. Like, those are the stories we should repeat. Like, keep telling the miracle stories. Keep sharing the good. Whatever is the positive, share it, live it. I think that's a big nakuda, though. You gotta work at it. It doesn't come easy. And if it does, Baruch Hashem, but keep learning and growing, because you're going to need the kaiches, because life is life. Galus is galus.
Does trust in God make one the simcha, or does having simcha strengthen one's bitachon?
Real simcha, I think, can only happen through bitachon, meaning bitachon is your base. Because if you're happy without bitachon, then it's not a real simcha. It's a simcha talui b'davar. It's reliant on something. What is that simcha then based off of? That things are going well for you? That you are being successful? That you have what you want? Okay, and what happens when the rug gets pulled out from under you? That wasn't real simcha. It's not going to stay. But if you have simcha because you believe in the Eibishter and you see you're trusting that it's going to be good, and the hardest is when you trust and you don't see the good. Hashem, I know you're going to help me at the end, but could you help me till you help me? That I felt is really, really resonated, because we know that Hashem's going to make everything good at the end. We know that, like, you can't go through living life as he is without knowing the bottom line is the Eibishter is going to take care of us, and revealed good is going to come, and we're so blessed as a Mamash Chassidus. This is what the Rebbe speaks so much about. But till we get there, could you help me out?
Can you help me until you've helped me? I know you're going to help me, but help me through waiting for you to help me.
Yeah. That, to me, hearing that line was so validating. It's okay to need help till Hashem helps. Yeshua could come to herif ayin, like the blink of an eye, and even if it doesn't, though, to know it will come is great, and to also know when you need help. It's okay to know that it's not okay, even though you're trying your hardest, but it will be.
Very well put. Beautiful. I think we have such an amazing podcast here. Thank you for joining the Gate of Trust podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Mrs. Kesem Mia Hetsrony, thank you so much for your ability to translate, but not only translate it, but share the transformation of something so sad into really seeing goodness all around you, using Torah, using halacha, using all of the tools that you have. I think what you've shared with me, or what I take away, is that sometimes we like, I'm going to study, or I have to study. Like, we get to study. And because we get to study, we get to have tools in our tool belt, because like you say, it's galus. So we don't know when we're going to need these tools. So it's a reminder to really redouble our efforts to study, because you don't know when you need it. Hashem wants us to do it, and we should do it because it'll help us, as you show, give us the power to get through the challenges of life. Sometimes it's something terrible. Sometimes it's the terrible loss of a dishwasher. But sometimes people see a dishwasher as a terrible tragedy, and it's not. Like you say, it's all part of life, and we get to live, and we get to find another dishwasher, and we get to have another day. As long as we're alive and living with the Torah, we can find happiness, so we can have another day, and we can then one day we'll have two dishwashers. We'll get two dishwashers. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing so much. You've given so much to so many people. It's amazing. And thank you so much. You and your family should only continue to have nachas from your children and happiness, and continue to share your thoughts as you do so well with us, with everyone else. So we look forward to this podcast getting out into the world, because I think your words of Torah will be a nachama to others from similar situations.
Revealed good. We shouldn't need the chamas anymore. The Eibishter should just bring us geula. We are more than ready. The world is ready. We are ready, and it should just be revealed good and bracha and bracha for the entire world.
Amen.
Amen. Moshiach now.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Nice speaking with you.
Thank you so much. Wow, Felix. She is so strong, so inspiring.
She's really something special. She's really a general in the army of Hashem. Her thoughts, the study that she's put in of the Rebbe, and of all of the writings that have flowed from her at her time of need, really is inspiring to let us all know that, not that we should ever need it, but that there's a purpose to study, there's a purpose to our focus on learning that is there to help us and to help others in times of need.
You know, Felix, if we rely on an umbrella or anything other than Hashem, we're going to realize that it's just full of holes.
But if Bitachon is our umbrella and we trust exclusively in God, then we'll always be singing in the rain.
Thank you for listening to the Gate of Trust podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a rating, and share the podcast with the people you love. To access today's show notes, ask Matt and Felix a question, or suggest a Gate of Trust story to be featured on the show, visit gateoftrust.org/podcast.
You think you got it under control, you're on a roll, living it up, living your dreams. But when it all goes bust at the seams, then you scream and cry to the one on high. He's been it from the beginning when you felt like you were winning. He was calling all the shots, he gave you all that you got. So when you low